Hi, guys, and welcome to 20s Not So Grown Up podcast with me, your host, Carmen. And this is the first episode of the podcast. I'm really excited, nonetheless, um, because I've always wanted to start a podcast. It just never really happened. I just kind of needed to push myself to make it happen. And thankfully, I'm starting today. So, as you can see, I find myself, well, if you're watching the video, but if you're listening to me, I'm sitting on my nice and comfy bed because we're going to talk about what this podcast is and kind of what the plan is for this podcast. So, I'm going to try and say this in like chronological order. And as I'm telling the story, I'm going to try not to get too off track. Sometimes I may get off track, but hopefully today I won't. But basically, this podcast is something I kind of always wanted to start. I just needed like the push to start it. And the job that I'm working at now, I started like in November, so I haven't been there for long. And from like the first day that I started working there, everyone would ask me like, "What are you going to do after college? What are you going to do after college?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe do like YouTube or start a podcast or something." And then my coworker was like, "Oh, like I think you'd actually do really good on that." And I was just like, what? Like I'm the type of person that doesn't know how to take compliments. So when you do compliment me, I'm just like, "Are you lying? Like are you lying to me? Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me." Like that's exactly my first thoughts. Like don't lie. And she was like, "No, like I think you really be good. Like I think you do well at a podcast." And I was like, "Really?" She was like, "Yeah, like I really do hope you start it." And I was just like, "Hmm. Maybe I should." And then time went on by, holiday season passed. And then I was like, we're in January 2024, brand new year. Maybe I should just start a podcast. Maybe I should just say, F it and start a podcast. And I was just like I kept contemplating and I kept going back and forth like, should I start a podcast? Should I not? Should I start a podcast? Should I not? Should I? Should I not? Like I literally went back and forth many times about whether I should or not. And so one day I go to work and I was just like, you know what? I am going to start a podcast. And that day I was like, I was searching on YouTube and on TikTok and I was just literally browsing for like 30 minutes, maybe like 45 on intake. And I was intaking all the information on how to start a podcast, you know, what should I do to start a podcast, all of that. And I was like, well, I need a name. So I was like, what do I want to talk about? What is something that I have like knowledge in that I could sit and talk about potentially for an hour? And I was just like thinking. And I was like, well, there's not much I could talk about. Like, I'm only in my 20s. Like, what am I going to talk about? And I was like, wait, why don't I just talk about my 20s? I'm literally in like the I don't want to say the best phase of your life, but the most important phase of your life. Like it's your prime. That's like the center of your youth. So I was like, well, I should just talk about my 20s and everything that I've learned so far, but then I'm like, I'm only 22 years old. Like there's only so much I could talk about. And I was like, wait, but like there is a lot I could talk about. So that's how the first part of my name came to be. It was like 20s. I need to talk about my 20s. Why not? So then one day I stumbled on ChatGPT and I was like, list a bunch of podcast names, like unique podcast names. And ChatGPT started generating, and I was just like, all these names suck. I was like, all these names are bad. And then I saw one that it was like Not So Grown Up Chronicles. And I was like, I like the not so grown up part because it really resonated with me. Because there was something I used to always say, and like not even knowing that that would be the name that I would put on my podcast, I always used to say like to people, like, I'm not really a grown up. I'm just like an adult child. Like that's what I would tell my friends. And so then when I saw that name there, I was like, hey, like I want to use that. And I was like, well, why don't I make it 20s not so grown up podcast? And that's how I got my name. And then I searched to make sure like no one else had that name. I didn't want to copy from anyone, and made my socials, made my, everything. I made everything that I needed to make. I followed every step on how to start a podcast. And then now the only final step was to get the mic, the sound card, lighting, set it up on my computer so that I could record, all of that. And now we're here. And so, just to talk a little bit more about why I kind of resonated with the not so grown up part of the podcast, is because I just feel like at times when you're in your 20s, you think you know it all, or you think you know, you may have it all, but like in reality, you don't. Like, none of us really know what we're doing. I don't know if you guys know what you're doing, but me personally, like, I'm taking day by day. Like, I don't really know what tomorrow holds, or like what should I do for my future. I'm kind of just like going with the flow, because there's just a lot that you need to know at times. And I just feel like none of us really know what we're doing. We're just kind of hoping that we figure it out along the way. And it reminds me too of like when I was younger, I used to always tell my parents, like, whenever I had an argument with my mom or my dad, I used to tell them in Spanish. I used to be like, "Ugh, when I grow up, watch." Like, I would always tell them that when I grow up, you just wait. I was like, just you wait. I was feeling like Alexander Hamilton, like, just you wait. When I grow up, and I was just like, okay. So now that I am grown up of some sort, or grown up to like, I guess what society considers to be a grown up, I just think, yes, I grew up age, but like I just feel like we're all just adult children. Like, we're all grown, but we don't really know what we're doing. And it's just like, it's so real, because it just goes to show that when you're younger, you always want to grow up. Like, you're desperate to turn 18, and then you're desperate to turn 21 so that you could do all the adult things. But there's so much more to it than just like the fun part of it. Like, I know people be like, I can't wait till I'm 21 because you can be able to go to bars, and you can be able to do a bunch of stuff, all of that. Or I can't wait to turn 18 so that they can learn how to drive. But it's like there's more that comes to it. Like, when I first got my car, I was ecstatic, over the moon. I was like, yes, I'm driving. I got a whip. Ha ha ha. All of that. And then all the troubles came with it, to the point where, like, I literally, one day I went to my dad and I told him, like, take my car keys. I don't want this car anymore. Like, I literally looked my dad in the face and I was like, I don't want to drive anymore. You do whatever you want with the car. I don't want it. And it was just like, I had to like really like work hard for my car, and work hard to pay for my insurance, and then work hard to not get tickets, to not get parking tickets, and find parking for my car in New York City, which is like crazy. And then I had to, have money for gas, and find ways to like keep up with every financial demand that my car needed, but it was a lot. And I was only like 20. And now that I'm 22, it's still a lot to handle my car payments and gas and parking. The parking part got better because I started getting less tickets, but sometimes I do get tickets and then my dad gets like angry with me cuz he's like, "Why are you getting tickets?" And I'm just like, I I'm sorry. I would literally, whenever I would work, the first thing I would do is calculate how many hours I worked plus how much I get paid per an hour and how much I'm going to get for my check so that I can make sure that I was going to be able to pay my insurance and still have money to live and be young. So it's like, it's crazy because there's just so much stuff that goes into being in your 20s and really realizing that we're just not grown-ups. We're just adult kids. Like we literally are just adult kids. And it's okay because we're learning and we're going to figure that out all together. And I really hope that this podcast can be kind of like a safe space to just talk and like vibe and like really just like I hope people can relate to the stories that I say on this podcast, or else it's just gonna be like I'm just sharing to myself, like a little journal entry. But I just think like as I've grown up, I've just gone to notice that, you know, I wish I was younger again. I just wish I could go back to when I was younger so that I would have really like enjoyed my childhood instead of always wishing to grow up. Because now that I am grown up, like I don't really much like it. And it's just like crazy because we all be wanting to grow up and then we grow up and then we all want to not grow up. And it's like, how do you ungrow up? You don't. You just have to like go as you learn and try and like figure it out. And that's kind of like what I'm doing now with my life. I'm just trying to like figure things out. But I just realized I was like talking and talking and I didn't even say like, did I even say my name? I don't recall saying my name, but I'm Carmen. I'm 22 years old. I turned 23 in May, so, be on the lookout. Um and I literally graduated college like a few weeks ago. I want to say like in December, yeah, in December. And I like all I've heard when I tell people that I've graduated college or like when family friends and people I haven't seen in a while, when they ask me like, "Oh, so how's school?" and I'd be like, "Oh, I graduated." The first question that like comes up is, "Really? Like what did you study?" And then obviously I tell them what I studied. The next question that comes up is, "So what are you going to do with that? What can you do with that? What are your plans?" And I'm just like, I don't really know. I'm kind of just like chilling, you know? And I'm going to like figure it out and they're just like, "Well, you don't know what you want to do." And I'm like, "It's not that. It's just like when people ask you all these questions, like I feel like you in like your human sense, like I don't know how to explain it, but when people be asking you like all these questions, I feel like sometimes they can influence you to make decisions that you're not ready to make. And something about me is like even when I was deciding my major, like I didn't let what other people were doing influence me cuz I was like I don't want to decide a major and then do it and not like it because then I have to either start over or continue it even though I don't like it. And I never want to put myself in a position where I have to do something that I don't like because then I would just be miserable. So even when I was choosing my major, like I made sure to take classes in every different like thing that I could take. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna try a little bit of everything. And whatever sticks, sticks. And whatever doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. But that's what I did, and that's how I was able to decide my major. And so now that I've graduated, I've really like haven't like thought about what I want to do, but I do have ideas. I just really don't want other people around me, like what other people are doing, like classmates or family friends or my parents, like when they ask me like what I'm going to do, I don't want them to pressure me into making a decision that I don't feel like ready to make just yet, because I really don't want to say like, "Oh, I'm going to do this." And then I'm doing it and I hate it, because then it puts me in a position like, do I just do it because I'm already there, or do I start over? And it's like, starting over is really tough. It's not the end of the world if you start over, but like it's tough to go back to the start of the line when you were almost at the finish line. It's like beyond me. So, you know, as I have gone learning, I've just like, as time passes on, I just learn each and every time that you have to do what's like best for you, and you have to kind of just like center yourself on your wants and your needs. Like, not sometimes you have to be a little selfish for you, for your care, but like not selfish in a way where you're hurting others. Like, just chase after your dreams without worrying about what other people are doing. Because I feel like that's one of the things that holds me back sometimes, is that, for example, this podcast, I could have started this a long time ago, but something that held me back was I was always like scared of what people may think. Like, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, I don't really care what people think. But it's a lie that I tell myself, because sometimes I do care what people think. And it's like, why do I care what people think? And it just goes back into like letting other people influence you to do things that you don't want to do. Like, I would let people influence me, or not really the people necessarily, but like what I would think they would say of me influence my life, if that's making sense. Like, I would just be so anxious to post YouTube videos when I was younger, because I was like, "Oh my gosh. Like, watch when I go to school tomorrow, my classmates are going to be like, "I saw your YouTube video." And I'm just going to be like, "Really? You saw my YouTube video? Like, how did you find my YouTube?" Like, when I tell you, in 10th grade, I was active on YouTube, posting video after video. Like, I would make story times, I would do get ready with me. I did challenges with my friends. Like, I remember doing, I don't remember what it was, but I think it was like a question thing with two of my close friends. And then I did like the jelly bean challenge with one of my friends. Like, I was doing a bunch on my YouTube. And then one day, someone from my high school was like, "Oh, I saw your YouTube video." And it was my story time video. And this is going to, I don't want to get into that story time, but since I'm already talking about it, that story time that I made on my YouTube channel, it was like about a couple of classmates that I was in school with. And it wasn't nothing bad. Like, I was just telling a story time about like a boy I had a crush on, and how another girl also had this like a crush on him. I remember getting like in trouble, or not really in trouble, but I remember the like people saying that they saw my YouTube video, and that this and that, like people were just talking about it. So like the first thing I did when I got home was delete, 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 delete. Like, when I tell you I deleted those videos, like that, and those videos were never to be found. Like, I made sure they were deleted. But then again, nothing is really deleted off the internet, but at least I didn't have trace of it. So I made sure to delete it, and I was just like, bro, like, I'm letting people kind of influence me on what I should do just because I'm scared of what they'll say. Like, sometimes, if I'm being honest, some people don't even care. And it's just all in here. Like, when people go to the gym and they're scared to like record their workout because people are watching, like, people don't care. If I'm being honest, like, some people really don't care. So it's like in the brain type thing. Like, it's things that you think. that are happening but are really not happening. But it just goes to show that, some people let those thoughts cloud their mind, and I'm some of those people. Like I'm one of those people. I sometimes hold myself back from doing things that I want to do just because I'm scared of what people may say. And sometimes people don't even say anything. People support me. And it's just like I can't take compliments for the life of me that when someone says I'm doing something good, I automatically think they're lying. And I'm just like, are you being for real? Because I don't even be knowing at this point when something is legitimate and when something is fake. And that's just like the truth. So, yeah. Something I do want to say though is like after spending 4 years in college and now that I graduated, it's like I kind of like miss it. And I guess it's because I was so used to being there every day and like, just always on campus with my friends. But also because COVID took up a big part of like my college experience. And I didn't really get involved in doing things in college till I want to say last year. Like I was in a play. Well, I was in two plays. I made so many new friends. I hung out with so many people from different departments and different majors than I was. And, I really went around campus. But like now that I've graduated, it's like what to do with myself. Like I don't know what to do except for like work when I have a shift. And like when I don't work, I just sleep in bed. So I was like, I need to be more productive, which is why I also wanted to start the podcast just so that I have something to like keep me busy when I'm not at work. And now that I'm not in school, like I have so much free time on my hands. And it's like, who wants to just sleep and stay in bed all day? Like, I don't think that's normal. I mean, according to my dad, that's not normal behavior. Like, I remember sometimes my dad, when I was like in high school, I'm such a heavy sleeper. And when I fall asleep, I don't wake up, not even for no alarms. Like, someone physically has to wake me up. So, my dad would wake me up for school in the morning, and I would be like, yeah, I'm up, I'm up. And like, I would put on all my clothes and knock out again. Like, I would go back to bed. Mind you, I was in my full uniform, like everything. I would knock out again. And my dad would come to the house like maybe around 11 and I would start school like around 8. He would come to the house around 11 after my school has called him and he would go up to me and he would shake me and like literally shake my body and he would tell me again, my parents tell me in Spanish, but I just feel like I'm going to just say it in English, but then I'm also going to say it in Spanish just so you can hear. He would be like, "Muchacha, tú estás enferma?" Like he would ask me, he'd be like, "Girl, are you sick?" And I'm like, "No." Like I would wake up so confused, and my dad would literally shake my body like if like I'm a maraca. Like the maracas? Like he would shake my body like that. And I would just look at him like, "Yo, like why are you shaking me?" And he's like, "Are you sick?" And I'm like, "No." Why do you think I'm sick? He's like, "So why you didn't go to school?" And I was like, "Wait, I had school." And I would just be so confused because I would just wake up from like the biggest nap ever. And I was just like, yo, like I didn't even know I went back to bed. So I would literally tell my dad, like, I didn't even know I went back to bed. And he would just be like, "You have a problem." And I was like, I beg to differ, but like, okay. And so then what I started doing was I started going to sleep early, but even then, like I was just so exhausted in the morning, I would literally just knock out. Like I just wouldn't wake up. And so my dad thought there was something wrong with me and he told me, he was like, "Do you need me to take you to the hospital?" And I was like, "No." Like even if he did take me to the hospital, it's not like they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, she has this issue." Like I just would go to sleep and not wake up. Like I know that sounds like I have an issue, but I don't. I'm just a heavy sleeper. But yeah, like I'm such a heavy sleeper. Like I can sleep through anything. Like we could be in the car, we can be in someone's house. Like some people can be talking right now, and if I'm tired, I'm gonna go to bed. Like that's how determined I am, and that's how much of a heavy sleeper I am. But I don't want to make this episode too long just because this is like an intro episode. And there's so much more things that I want to talk about starting the next episodes that I don't want to like talk about all of them in this baby intro episode. So we're just going to keep this short and sweet. And, you know, hopefully you guys tune in again. Hopefully you guys had fun chatting it up with me. And yeah, for the next episodes, I want to do like a little Q&A thing where like you can ask questions and I'll respond to my heart's content as many questions as I can and as many topics as I can talk about while not getting off track. I think I did pretty good of not getting off track, especially for a first episode. And especially if you know how I am in person, then you know I always get off track. But I think today I was kind of centered in one topic. So, yeah, hopefully you guys join me in our not so grown up journeys and talking about our 20s. So, thank you for watching. This has been your host, Carmen. Until next time.